Welcome back to the channel. Today we're in my darkroom to see what methods of washing your film are most effective. Several years ago when I was living in Miami and teaching down there, I did a massive comparison of different published washing methods for film to see did one work better than the other. So I was looking at mostly like Ilford's 3-step fill and dump process versus Kodak's running water process, just to see which worked the best, or if they all worked equally well. So I did this with a retained hypo test. I've got one right here, residual hypo test solution from photographer's Formulary. The way this works, you develop, fix, and wash your film. Then you put a drop of this or dip a corner of the film into the solution and wait for 2 to 3 minutes. If it turns into a dark stain, then you didn't wash it properly. There's still a lot of fixer in there. If it's clear, then it's good. So I've got a little card from Kodak that has 1, 2, 3, and 4 steps on it from clear to a dark stain, and you can see which of those which it matches. So I published this original thing on APUG a long time ago. They've since changed to Photrio, and due to some personal issues, I completely wiped my presence off of that website, and that means that the original article was gone. So I wanted to recreate it today and maybe even throw in a couple different variations so that we can go through the different wash steps. So what I'm going to be testing is the Ilford 3-step process, and that's what I'm going to call it. That's where you fill the tank, invert it for 5 times, dump it out, fill it with water again, invert 10 times, dump it out, fill it, invert 20 times. That's the Ilford 3-step process. That's opposed to Kodak's just running water. So even though Ilford, if you really deep dive on their tech sheets, will have a running water wash option, the majority of people consider the Ilford wash process the 3-step. Now they assume a non-hardening fixer, so I'm going to be looking at what happens when we use a non-hardening fixer versus a hardening with a Hypo Clear. So I will use that variation, hardening, non-hardening, hardening with Hypo Clear, for the different styles. Kodak has 2 published styles, that is running water, typically with enough running water or at a rate that changes the water completely within 5 minutes. For a small single tank like this guy, that's about 0.1 gallons per minute. It's very, very little, and that's as low as my flow meter can even register. In fact, it's just under what my flow meter can actually register. And then a 2-reel tank, or a single 120 film size tank, takes 0.2 gallons per minute in order to fully clear. And I tested that with a method that Kodak recommends of using a solution of just potassium permanganate, so just a little bit in some water to make it purple, or food coloring dye will work perfectly fine. Filling the tank with that, then putting your hose in the tank at this slow flow rate and timing how long it takes to fully clear. So for me, 5 minutes, 0.1 gallons per minute. The other method that Kodak recommends is filling and dumping the tank, no agitation, just fill and dump 10 times. So we're going to check that too. So it's going to be a lot of fixing and washing. Now, because we're only testing fixer and not residual silver, I am just going to use some completely fogged film. Do I have here? Yeah, it's an old roll of T-Max 3200. And it's not even the new stuff. This is like the old stuff, and it wasn't refrigerated or anything like that. It's pretty bad. I tried to use a roll once, and the fog level was just too much. So we're going to use this. We're just going to clip off a couple inches, 3-4 inches at a time, put it in the tank. Doesn't matter if it's light struck because we're not going to develop it. We're just going to go straight to fixer. We'll fix it for the minimum time, which is 3 times the amount of time it takes to clear. This takes 2 minutes to clear, so we'll fix for 6 minutes. Then we will wash or go to Hypo Clear for 2 minutes and then wash and test each method. So I've got my camera here so we can look down at the tank, and I need to put some film in the tank and go. So let's go ahead and do that. And let me just interject real quick. I don't want to see a bunch of comments about acid versus alkaline fixers. That's not the question here. Alkaline may wash out faster, but unless you test it, you don't know how fast. So just follow the instructions from the manufacturers, regardless of the type of fixer, and you'll be fine. I'll just take a quick moment to plug my lab towels if you want to help support the channel and dry your equipment and hands. Links down there. conclusions can we draw from this? Well, basically, boiled down to a nutshell, if you follow the manufacturer's directions, you will have fully washed film, and you'll have archival standards with the lowest amount of fixer possible. And that's what you want. You don't want fixer in there because it will start to cause all sorts of issues down the road, so getting a good wash is absolutely imperative. What we can see is that if you use a non-hardening fixer, then you're going to have an easier wash. If you use a hardening fixer, well, a Hypo Clear is really the way to go, or you're just going to have a very long wash. But it also shows us that we don't need a high rate of water change if you use a running water wash. A very low water rate will be just fine. In my test here, using a single 35mm tank, that's a 250 milliliter tank, I could get away with a 0.1 gallon flow rate. If I use a 2-reel tank or a single medium format tank, then I needed a 0.2 gallon per minute flow rate. And of course, larger tanks are going to require more time. But a 0.1, that's barely turned on at all. It is a trickle of water. You don't need a high volume in order to get a good wash. So you don't have to waste a lot of water. But if you do use the Ilford method, you will definitely need to use either a non-hardening fixer, which is all Ilford fixers, or Kodak Rapid Fixer without the hardener added. But if you do use a hardening fixer, such as the Kodak Powdered Fixer, or the Kodafix single solution, or Kodak Rapid Fixer with parts A and B, then you will need to use a Hypo Clear. Either way, just make sure you test your washing method. The solution, easy to find. Just make sure you give it 2 minutes to sit, wipe it off, and see if there's a stain. If there's any visible stain, wash it a little longer. So thank you for sticking around and watching this film test. Hopefully you learned how to test your film to make sure that you get the best results that you can, and your efforts don't go to waste down the road. Alright, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.